So I grew up in Indianapolis. I started in a punk band in '85. It was very hard to find good music. There was one store called Second Time Around, and it was only used vinyl. So that's where I got my first John Fox records, my first, I think what I got, a lot of alternative technically?
Yeah.
Alternative. Which were compilations at the time, stuff like that. So that was very difficult. Then I eventually got kicked out of the punk band because I wanted to incorporate synthesizers, and the drummer was into it, so he was getting electronic pads, and it made the rest of the band mad, and so they kicked me out. And then they went on to kind of they were opening for Helmet and stuff, so I mean they had that kind of sound, so you can imagine throwing keyboards into something like that. And so then when I moved to Detroit, I was going to art school there in '89, and what I thought I was writing basically, I was listening to like Psychic TV, the Acid House stuff, and I thought I was just writing industrial, the broader sense of the term. And then I took it to a guy who was in a band called Final Cut, which Jeff Mills was in at the very beginning. And I played it for him, and he said, this is like '90, and he said, this isn't industrial, this is techno. And speaking of techno, there's a cell phone ring. And I said, well, I don't know what techno is, and so Alan Oldham, what was his name, DJ T1000, he had a radio show at the time on public radio, and so I started listening to that, and it was the super early, like Cyberactive, Richie Hawtin, Dan Bell stuff, the early Plus 8 stuff, the early UR stuff. And that was still when it was really hard. And really, other than the production, it was the same to me as industrial. It was just, they turned up the kick drum, they don't deviate too much from the 4 on the floor, stuff like that. So that really had an influence on me.
Somehow, a friend of mine's uncle was Jello Biafra's lawyer, and so he had like all this Dead Kennedys music, and so he made me a tape, and I was like, oh my god, I've never heard anything like this before. It wasn't like mainstream radio music, and that was kind of it from then on. And I moved to Detroit in '95 to go to school. And then I met you, and we argued about electronic music because I thought it was totally lame.
Yeah, she hadn't at the time heard.
I just thought that all electronic, like I had never even heard of Throbbing Gristle at that point in life. I never thought that electronic music could have like a punk root to it, and
so she had heard, PIL and
yeah,
The Clash and Dead Kennedys and things like that. So that's kind of was early on. It was just we were playing music for each other and things like that when we started.
And I was like into like a lot of the straight edge hardcore music, and then it got really popular, and it was really awful. And it was kind of like a good time, I think, in my life, like because I was really bored with a lot of music, but.
And I think that's something we have in common is Indianapolis and her growing up in Nowheresville, Michigan.
We were deprived.
And so the things we had just meant so much because in the 8th grade I had a friend, he became my friend who had moved from Atlanta, and his older brother had a friend who was like an exchange student from the UK, and so he gave, so we had all these tapes of Depeche Mode, Black Flag, Butthole Surfers, Human League. Like, it was just all this stuff that never made it to Indianapolis. So I don't know, maybe there's something about that, not ever having any good access to it, that has sort of made us really sort of self-reliable. Joke that we were going to put out a book called DIYW, which is do it yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we've
done
everything backwards
as a band.
We would always go off and do like 2 live shows, and we would practice and rehearse and get a set prepared, which I don't think a lot of people know. With electronic music, it takes a lot longer to just prepare your set so that you can play it. You can't. There's certain limitations for sure. There's certain benefits, but it's like all of a sudden we go and do a tour with Trans Am, which we were opening for here at Middle East, and all of a sudden we did 9 shows in a row, the biggest thing we've ever done. And we were like, damn, this is a lot easier, like we went through all the work to rehearse, but now we're getting paid 9 times instead of 2 times, like, but just everything, everything about us we've done backwards.
The music speaks for itself, and either you like it or you don't, and it doesn't matter like what the press says, because everybody's got their own opinion, and you just kind of have to like.
What doesn't for us?
There are days. There are certainly days where I think we should just start. We should have a new name for the band and just start where we are, because it is annoying. It's like, it hasn't been too bad as far as getting a genre pegged on you. Now, like lately with the press, but even with Anxiety Always, it was just like, God, like, can't you think of something better to say? Like, do we have to, keep going there? Can't we move on? So,
and what's funnier is New York, the progressive city, is the most backwards of any city we play in. And as far as press and just like holding on to things from the past, and like other cities are just like, awesome, this album rocks, I don't care what you think.
Right.
They got it now, they're pegged, and it's like, oh.
But I think
and then
that's
you go
also
to New York and you're like, oh my God, aren't you supposed to be like the cultural center of the world? Because you're so not.
But I think that's like.
Not that we have great fans there. I'm just talking about a lot of the press.
Yeah, but I also
not all the press.
I think that's more, in Detroit, it's just like whatever, like.
That's the difference,
cares?
about growing up in Detroit. It is. The fact that Dirt Bombs came to us and were like, we want to do a split 7-inch. It was just like, that's what Detroit's about.
Yeah.
People it's like if there's a good show, people go out. they don't really care what it is, and that's exciting.
Reactionary, so we always, we like to see what people are saying, and we really, we like it when people love it or hate it. And
I think it was in our first press release. We said, this is music for people to love or hate. This is not music to be on at a party and no one notices it. We want it where people go, what is this, or turn it off. We don't.
I mean, your comment is still one of our favorite comments today, Monkey Beats. I mean,
yeah. But I liked it. It was passionate. It was directed.
Well,
it wasn't wishy-washy. I don't like wishy-washy.
Yeah.
I like someone that has an opinion. And there's so many people in the world that just don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
What I'm really tired about with press right now is this really double standard, where they're like, this is a great album. They've really gone out on a limb, and they really are taking chances, and I really respect that. 6 out of 10. And you're like, it's like this covering, well, if somebody doesn't like it, I can say, well, I gave it a bad rating, but I said really nice things about it, or and it's just like this. Take a stand.
Yeah, I remember I read something somewhere. This girl wrote, "Oh, Nicola's vocals are like an annoying fly buzzing around your head," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's like the most awesome thing I've ever heard." The person that wrote it obviously thought it was a total, diss, slag on me, and I was like, that's great. I think I'm doing better now then.
Yeah, you take a song like, Human Fly, is that the name of it? By the Cramps? You try to picture when it came out, that was annoying as hell. He's just sitting there going, bzz, 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 just in the microphone. Yeah, but people are used to it. So for us, it's like negative press means that we're doing something. We're trying something that's not. When somebody comes out like, I'm trying to think of somebody, but you just do like a rock thing, like the Strokes or something. It's like so easily accessible.
Right.
You've got a reference point. It doesn't deviate that far from it. So hey, it's not that bad, and that's really surprising to me. And it's funny. The whole rock world. Everything from not smoking in venues to, it's just getting friends of ours getting kicked out in New York for dancing. It's just like this is such a funny world now. If someone has either a large trust fund or they're not a musician,
right,
I say go ahead, start a label. But anyone who asks us, do you want to start a label, that's a musician, it's like, no, don't do it, because it takes, you have to have a business head, and B, it takes so much energy. And we just looked back and we were like, okay, you say, well, why did we get pigeonholed? Well, we didn't release but 2 full lengths in 7 years. We've been a band for 7 years, and we only have 2 full lengths. I mean, that's unacceptable. Why did it happen? Because we've been running the label.
Right.
We've gotten 100% satisfaction. We love everything we put out on the label. Mm-hmm. But it was like we decided it's time for a little me time. It's like...
Well, and there's nothing like getting ready to go on tour and you're shipping out thousands of CDs to distributors, and it's like, you're trying to get your set ready and you're trying to get to UPS and you're trying, it's just...
And then you're off in
You're doing the mail order.
And you're off in California and somebody wants, another 200 CDs and you can't ship them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Ursats. We never wanted employees because in our opinion, if we had employees, we were afraid, would we make any compromises? Like, well, we know this is a hot seller.
Right.
Well, it's not even that. It's just we don't want children, and employees are children. That's as simple as that, and that's fine.
We have a hard enough time just taking care of our cat.
Yeah.
So
we've got an automatic feeder for our cat. We were like, I can't even deal with that. But you take someone like Thrill Jockey, and you've got Bettina Richards, who worked for a major and left them to start her own label because she didn't like the way majors treated artists. I mean, you can't really have a better resume than that. And when we contacted, we'd done business with them for 3 or 4 years, and we said, we knew how they were business-wise. They're just sort of...
Very fair and honest.
Just fair and honest.
Cool
no
people.
Bullshit, just easygoing, regular people. And so Nicola contacted them and said, would you be interested in putting out some of our future music? And they were like, yes. And it was just... It's funny because people think it's a lack of control, and yes, if you go with a major, they want you to tour like more than you want to, or do an in-store for 3 people, or just these things that like nobody wants to do. And it's like with Thrill Jockey, you make all your decisions. I mean, I think a great example is when we asked Bettina we said, do you have any sort of logo you want on the Doom EP? And she said, no, we don't have a logo. Just make it go with your artwork. We don't want the label to interfere with the band. And we were just like, that is one of the most amazing things that someone who's been around for 10 years with acts like Tortoise and Sea and Cake and Bobby Kahn, like, that they don't. And then we were like, well, do you need to hear the tracks first? No, here's who you send it to.
Yeah.
What about the artwork? Here's the email address, send it to pre-press. Like, the control is still 100% in our hands. We decided how long this tour would be. It's an EP, we did a short tour. We just, we're going to do our biggest tour to date for the album. We want to do that. It's really, there's absolutely been no negatives and no lack of control.
videos this summer and do like, all those things that we've always wanted to be able to do. that we've just never had the time to do.
Yeah, because
So
it was
it's
always like
like-
preparing for some shows, doing some shows, coming back, getting the next release of either
Yeah.
ourselves or some
Somebody else,
fantastic
yeah.
artist friends of ours, and it's just it really, and that's the thing. I mean, we've decided, we just sat down and we said, we've never made a compromise with the label, but we need a break. We have lost a bit of the passion because the business can be a real burden, and that's what we try to explain to artists that want to start a label. And I mean, our spirits are just so high now, and then like our creative well is full. But it does. It just takes so much
Yeah.
pressure off.